I am very, very pleased to tell you that Eleanor Holmes Norton has reintroduced her Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Conversion Act. For the 16th time, she has introduced it, and I'd like to just go right into what she has to say and then talk a little bit afterwards.
Thank you for inviting me to speak to you today on the crucial issue of nuclear disarmament. In 1993, District of Columbia peace activists were successful in getting a ballot initiative in DC passed that called for nuclear disarmament. Every Congress since then, I have introduced a bill based on that initiative, including the Nuclear Weapons Abolition and Conversion Act of 2023, which I introduced last month. The bill would require the United States to redirect resources that are being used for nuclear weapon programs to use in addressing the climate crisis and human infrastructure needs, such as housing, healthcare, and restoring the environment. Beginning on the date that the President certifies to Congress that all countries possessing nuclear weapons have begun the verifiable and irreversible elimination of such weapons under the Treaty on the Prohibition of Nuclear Weapons. With Russia's invasion of Ukraine and threats of nuclear action, abolition of nuclear weapons is more important than ever. As the only nation that has used nuclear weapons in war and that still possesses one of the largest nuclear weapon arsenals, it is time for the United States to reestablish its moral leadership in the world by leading the effort to eliminate nuclear weapons. According to the Congressional Budget Office, programs will cost the United States $634 billion over the next 10 years. That money could be better spent on combating the climate crisis and addressing domestic needs. Thank you for having me speak today and for your work on nuclear disarmament.
HR 2775 is the bill number. And this session, it was introduced by more than just Ms. Norton, who is the only one who introduced it for the past 15 sessions. This time it's Representative Jim McGovern and Raul Grijalva, Rashida Tlaib, Mark Pocan, Ilhan Omar, all introduced it along with her, which is great. And we need to get a lot more representatives to sign on. Now, Ms. Norton mentioned that the bill was introduced after a successful voter initiative brought in Washington, D.C., and I was part of the team that did that. And I would like to say today, since what we're trying to do here is to figure out ways that we can actually get to the point where the president signs the TPNW and the countries all agree that they're going to abolish their nuclear weapons. We have to get Congress involved in it in a much more active way. We don't have any senators who have signed on yet and have introduced it yet. And it's nice that it keeps getting introduced, but it really isn't going anywhere. It's never gotten out of the Armed Services or Foreign Affairs committees. So I would like to suggest, we circulated a petition in Washington, D.C. outside the White House day and night from 1986 to 1992. And finally in 92, we took it to the voters. And we found that a voter initiative was an extremely effective way, not only to educate people, but to motivate people. And once we won the election, Eleanor Holmes Norton, who had been against it before the election, decided to sign on because her constituents wanted it. So I would urge that anybody that lives in an area where you have voter initiatives, that you consider putting a voter initiative on the ballot, maybe even this election year, asking for your representative to co-sponsor and your senators to introduce into the Senate this bill.